Here we are, of course. A bit of a delayed reaction there. Welcome back. Jesus Christ, we're big here, aren't we, Pete?
We're what?
What's going on? Smaller people. We're a bit big there. Welcome back, punters. Of course, we're covering the Turnbull Stakes day from Saturday. We've got Peter Lawrence here as usual throughout the spring. Good morning, Pete.
How's it going there, Paul? Yep, morning in Queensland. It's bloody cold where I am. I was going to have no shirt on to tip my hat to John Walter. I thought shirts might be optional on the show, but it was just too cold, so I had to have the jumper on. I see you've got the hoodie.
Well, it's actually quite fresh here in Brisbane. About 16 degrees or 15 degrees where I am at the moment. So certainly not the spring weather that we would hope for, but still nice enough day. Let's look at the Melbourne meeting. Of course, the shoot, or should I say the straight races, race a little bit faster, which is probably not that unusual. Around about a sort of 2.8, so a good track, and the course proper was in the 3.4 range, which of course they did upgrade from a 4 to a 3, so good track pretty much all round. And in terms of fairness, Pete, I thought that nothing wrong with being on the fence, and if anything, was probably a little bit harder to come from out wide.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Some of those horses looming out wide didn't finish off as well as you thought they might. But yep, overall, I thought it was just a good, fair track. Hats off to Flemington.
Okay. Indeed. And it's good to see that there's some decent surfaces somewhere at the moment, which is good from a betting point of view. We certainly bet more on these better tracks. The first race, of course, is the Maribyrnong Plate, and average early, below average by the time they got to the 600. Sort of slowish overall time. What did you think of this race, Pete? Did you have an opinion going into the race?
No, I didn't really have an opinion. I thought that Ben Melham showed real intent on getting onto that rail. He obviously thought that was the place to be early. I thought it was a poor time, and I'd be potting these horses going forward. I'd be looking at
the late sectionals are okay, but I mean they did nothing early, and I'm sort of in agreement with you. Also race 1, so they sort of had that first use. Race 2, the Paris Lane, over 1,400 metres, below average tempo early, sort of quickened up a touch by the time they got to the 600, but Visionari looked a little bit plain in my mind. What were your thoughts, Pete, going into the race? I mean, she was a short price favourite. There weren't many hopes, and she started short. So from a ratings point of view, I've got her going a bit below what she can do.
It's a gelding.
Gelding, I should say.
It's a strange because Visionari on Saturday and the night before the Peter Moody horse in the second last race, there was $1.45. They both just won by a hair. I thought Visionari was clearly a couple of lengths below where you would have expected it to be. Everything went right for it. The Garden missed the start, got out the back and had to race wide, and probably should have won it. I think would have won if it had a better getaway. And Mr. Exclusive getting so close there at 30-1. But I did hear Mick Price say, it needed the run and whatever else, but I wouldn't be thinking it'd be featuring in those. They're setting up that big $3 million mile race on the back of the end of the carnival there. I'm not sure.
I'd be very surprised. Very surprised.
Yeah. I didn't think there was anything out of that race you'd be wanting to be on sort of next start.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let's look at the Edward Manifold over 1,600 metres. Above average tempo early. Slight slowdown by the time they got to the 600, sort of to an average pace. I thought the winner's gone quite well.
Yep, it was a terrific ride by Damien Lane. In contrast to the ride on the runner-up Typhoon Titmus, who for some reason just drifted back to be at least a pair further back than it needed to be, and then hung in the straight. I thought she was a little bit unlucky. Not saying she would have necessarily beaten the winner, but definitely a little bit unlucky. Look, I would have thought any of the fillies that they bring down for the Flight Stakes would be extremely competitive. I'm sure she's in the 1,000 Guineas. I'm sure She's Lickety Split's got a bit more improvement in her. She was only second up there on Saturday. I would have thought she's got those fillies covered there. But I would have thought maybe if North Star Lass or one of those other Sydney fillies comes down, there'd be definitely some sort of threat, notwithstanding it's often hard to keep going after the Flight Stakes. But I thought it was just an average race. I don't think it was any stronger than the race that was run at Sandown the week before with Waltz on By. So I think she'd be very competitive in the 1,000 Guineas as well. I don't think it's a one-horse race for She's Lickety Split in it by any means.
Would they bring Zugotcha? I mean, Zugotcha's rated better on my numbers as North Star Lass. Probably has too. I mean, do you think that they keep, because that was only a third run on Saturday? I noticed
that Zugotcha's not in the market in the tab market for 1,000 Guineas, and I think Chris Waller did say she'd spell. It's not usual for him to press on, but it's very usual for Gay to press on with her fillies into the 1,000 Guineas. So I thought North Star Lass would be there, and she may well go better on a dry surface as well. She has proven herself in the dry, so up on the pace, she'd be a chance for sure.
Typhoon Tipness, that was its fifth run this prep or first prep, and it was off the 6-day backup. Would they keep going with her, do you think?
I think they'll keep going with her, but I think She's Lickety Split would have her covered again next start with the natural improvement you'd expect.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let's look at the Rosa Kingston over 1,400 metres. Average tempo here. Pete, I made a mistake in not backing the winner. Pride of Jenny, very disappointing, really. I mean, it wasn't the greatest ride after she was a bit slow out. But
yeah, she was terribly slow out. In fact, she either read just as the gate opened, or the attendant didn't let go of the reins quickly enough. But she really bungled the start, and that's the end for her. She was wide. I didn't think it was a bad run, actually. I'd be happy to be on her again next start over 1,400 metres going to the lead. Thought Blake Shin rode a great race on She's All Class, really tried to cuddle it until the very last second. She was a little bit doubtful at the trip. Thought Exalita went as well, if not slightly better than she'd ever gone before. And I thought Argentia was outstanding. The only trouble with Argentia is whether she will improve on that run second up. Her best run last time in was first up. I thought that was a new best for her, or equal best, and possible that she would go forward. If she goes forward on that, she'll be a very good chance in any race she contests.
What about Yearning? I mean, Yearning looked really good first up to the eye. It was perhaps a little bit flattered by the sectionals, but it's gone reasonably well, hasn't it? I mean, even though it's been beaten 2.5, I don't think second up was probably what we were thinking would be best for her anyway. What are your thoughts on Yearning?
Look, she's always disadvantaged in these set weights and penalty races. She gets the 59 because she won the 1,000 Guineas. So they're not great races for her. I thought she went as well as she did first up. She didn't really come up last time in, but at a previous preparation, she did keep improving. And I thought, she's definitely one that you could be following going forward.
And Odium first up after quite a long spell. Was fair. Got a pass mark, I thought, and Fortunate Kiss, and seems to have raced pretty much to its level or close to its level.
Yeah, I think the jury's out with Odium now. She didn't come up last. Just had the one run last time in, but she was just plain on Saturday. It's been a long time since she's won a race now. The jury's out for me there.
Okay. And I think Fortunate Kisses can probably still improve a little bit. It was a decent enough run, I thought. despite the fact that the margin was about 3 lengths or so. Let's get on to the Danehill, over 1,100 metres. Look, pretty solid tempo by the time they got to the 600 here. It was average early. Giga Kick sort of fell in. Buenos Noches, the horse I backed. Don't know whether perhaps knew it could have been a little bit more aggressive, but anyway, what were your thoughts coming into the race, Pete?
Look, obviously it all revolved around whether Giga Kick would improve up that 49-day break. I'd be fairly confident in saying he didn't. He just went to the same level as he did last start, which was just enough to get home. I thought Buenos Noches was good. I thought it just had every possible chance. I can't understand why people are knocking the ride. I thought Cannonball was great, slightly unlucky. He just gets in the wrong races all the time. If he can get into a 1,000-metre race down the straight and they just let him run, I think he's definitely got a race in him over the carnival somewhere. I thought Duel was vastly better second up and can improve next start.
Yep.
But I don't think those horses will be beating In Secret in the Corner if they bring her down. I think that's a bit below where she's sitting at the moment.
The Bart Cummings over 25.10 average tempo. I should have been on this winner for something, and I wasn't, but it probably was a little bit blessed considering Francesco Guardi was almost knocked down and should have won the race clearly, I thought.
Yes, it was a pretty poor rating, Bart Cummings, I would have thought. Excuse me. I can't see Luna Flair figuring in the Melbourne Cup at all off that rating. I thought she went as good as she can go. Francesco Guardi definitely should have won it, even allowing for the stumble, which might not have cost it too much ground, but then it was blocked at the top of the straight, had to wait to come wide. Extremely unlucky. Craig Newitt rode it as well. Bad mistake by Craig Williams when he handed up being in the death seat there on interpretation. As soon as he let Midnight Blue go around him, the pace went right out of the race. And it's a dour 3,000-metre horse. It would have been better just rolling along. I thought it was a bit unlucky as well. But a very bunched field, 2 lengths, 2 1/4 lengths really between the whole field, except for the horse that ran last. And that's not Melbourne Cup form.
Bound declares sort of back to its sort of best form, but I don't think it's got much more to offer myself.
No, probably not. I'd say he's still 2 lengths below where he was when he won the Cup, but he gets these big weights all the time now.
Yes. Okay, let's look at the Turnbull. What have we got here? Is that below average tempo here? Look, I sort of erred here, Pete. I underestimated Smoke and Romans off that last start win. For mine, it's gone ahead again, and Gold Trip was perhaps, despite the fact that it was well weighted, was a little bit disappointing. Or yes and no. I mean, I know it was wide, and I suppose you could forgive it for that. But my issue with this horse is that it does have the glue-on shoes that it wears, and coming off that wet track run to dry, I sort of kick it in the guts a fair bit. What were your thoughts coming into the race?
Look, originally I did want to be on Gold Trip. I was surprised it was so short. It's got that dreadful action where it throws its legs all around, and it has the glue-on shoes. Look, I was worried also about Duis, who I thought actually went a lot better on Saturday than she had been going. I wouldn't be discounting her going forward. The winner was just outstanding, and I can't believe it's $5 for the Caulfield Cup. If it isn't, Incentivise was 10-9 last year after winning the Turnbull, and he had 55 in the Caulfield Cup or whatever it was. This horse goes down to 51.5. It's just nothing else. It's just immoral, you would have thought. Jamie Carter might even only have 50.5. I just can't see how they can possibly beat it.
Well, that's your tip anyway for the Caulfield Cup.
I just can't believe it's not much shorter. I'm sure it'll be shorter on the day. There's no internationals coming. It's going to be racing the horses that ran in the Bart Cummings, and US is going to have to give him 4 or 5 kilos. I would have thought it just stood out, and it seems to just be improving. I know it's had 22 starts, and it's 6 years old, but its last 2 runs for me have been its best ever runs. And
yep, agree.
On the pace, handles the wet, has won at the trip. I'd be surprised if it's not 350 or less on the day.
Okay, well, let's go. Is there anything else out of that race, Pete, that you wanted to mention?
No, but as I said, I wouldn't be giving up on Duis yet. I think that she's going okay. I thought that was not a bad run with 57 on Saturday.
The Gilgai, Private Eye, got the job done here on a solid tempo. It was pretty wound up first up, well backed on the day, and has gone to a new peak for mine.
Yes, I wouldn't agree with that it's gone to a new peak. I think it's, the way I do it, he's gone about 2 kilos worse than he did in the Stradbroke. But having said that, I thought it was a great run. I don't know who's got the last slot for the Everest. There's still one to go, but I would have thought he went much better than Lost and Running on Saturday, and I'd be snapping him up. And I think would be a definite chance of running a place and causing a boil over if Nature Strip does the Nature Strip thing and go backwards second up, which is, I guess, the worry with him. But I thought Private Eye was outstanding, and can possibly improve a little bit on that next start.
Rockin' Horse, sort of, for mine, has pretty much gone almost the same rating in its 3 Flemington runs so far. It's just very consistent. Baller has sort of held its rating pretty much from its first up win at Flemington. So Swatsat, sack it.
Oh, well, Swatsat'll just never win. Swatsat hasn't won a race since the 10th of October 2020, and I know that some people say that there's no such things as non-winners, but if you talk to jockeys, they'll tell you that there's lots of them. And she's just the classic. She gets into these set weights and penalty races and the Super Vobis races down on the close to the limit, and she doesn't win, often doesn't run a place, and then she'll run second or third to Nature Strip in a Lightning or a
Home Affairs as well, yeah.
Wait for Age. For some reason, she loves running in the pack. I don't understand the psychology of it, but that's definitely a non-winner.
Okay, and to the last race, the Superimposed, solid tempo here. Mr. Maestro, very well backed, got the job done easily enough, and seems to be improving all the time.
Improving all the time. Dominant win. It's not super strong form, but I think he's only going to be racing in the Derby against similar horses. And if he meets these horses in the Derby, he'll win it for sure. But if something comes out of that Spring Champion Stakes, there could be some dangers still that we haven't seen. But from what we've seen with the Colts in Melbourne, he just looks to be very dominant. And he was dominant there on Saturday. And a
major build,
strong horse. No, well, he's clearly had enough this time in. Yeah. The second horse was okay. Red One Sensation. I wouldn't be backing him to be turning the tables on the winner going as the distances increase. But I thought Mr. Maestro is the one to follow out of that race for sure.
Any others to follow out of the program, Pete, in particular for you?
No, I'd be tipping people to take the early odds Smoke and Romans, especially if you can get on with Sportsbet and they give you the money back if it doesn't start for some reason. And I would have thought Mr. Maestro is the horse to be beating in the Derby as well.
Yeah, Smoke and Romans for me. Okay, Pete, thanks for your time again, and we'll catch you next week for a review of the Guineas Day at Caulfield. And hopefully we can, well, at least hopefully I can be be a little bit more effective this week than I was on Saturday. But anyway, they're the breaks. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thanks, Paul.